Parenting doesn't just change your schedule, it changes you. It reshapes how you see yourself, how you relate to your partner, and how you connect to the world. We expect diapers, we expect school drop offs and sleepless nights. Everybody gets the advice from a caring parent that they're going to not sleep when they first have their kids, right? We hear that a lot. What we don't expect and what we don't often hear of are the identity shifts, the role confusion, or how connection can start to feel harder to access. So let's talk about that, especially the part that often goes unnamed. When a child enters the picture, roles in the relationship don't just expand. You just don't end up having more things to do. They often reorganize. Tasks become more defined. Who handles morning? Who schedules appointments? Who remembers the permission slips? Who empties the lunchbox? And even in thoughtful, equitable partnerships, roles often become uneven, not by choice, but by momentum. One person often becomes the default parent, the planner, the emotional regulator. Sometimes we've been that parent, and sometimes we've been not that parent. And this leads directly into something we don't talk enough about, and that's the invisible work. Let's name it clearly. Define it. You know how I love to define things. Mental load is the ongoing, behind the scenes work of anticipating, planning, organizing, and remembering everything it takes to run a household and raise children. It's not just doing the tasks, it's holding the responsibility for the tasks existing at all. It sounds like the pediatrician appointment is next Thursday. I should probably reschedule that meeting. We're running low on snacks for school. Ugh, kids have seemed off lately. Maybe I should check in with the teacher. It's the constant mental tab that never fully closes. And in many families, this load disproportionately falls on one person. In heterosexual cisgender relationships, it's often women. Not always, not intentionally, not even always consciously, but consistently, which creates a very specific kind of exhaustion. You're tired, but not just physically. You're overwhelmed, but you can't point to a single task. You feel responsible even when others are helping, because helping is not the same as holding the load. If one person has to notice the need, delegate the task, or follow up to make sure it happened, they're still carrying the mental weight. They're still holding the responsibility for that task. And this is where resentment often grows quietly. Why do I have to ask? Why am I the one keeping track of everything? Why does it feel like I'm managing and not partnering? On the other side, the other partner might feel like, I'm doing what you ask. Why isn't that enough? And this is the disconnect. So I think the takeaway here is equity in parenting isn't just about doing, it's about owning. Sharing the mental load means shared awareness, not just shared tasks. The mental load directly impacts identity because when you're constantly holding everything together, your sense of self can narrow. You're no longer just a partner, a professional, an individual. You become the one who remembers, the one who anticipates, the one who holds it all. And that can feel meaningful and suffocating, important and invisible. And many parents, especially the holders of the mental load, they feel like they've disappeared in this phase. And then there's guilt for wanting space, for missing your old life, for not feeling fulfilled every moment by this choice of parenting that you've made. And we won't put on any social pressures of how we should feel good about being parents. But here's the truth. You don't have to erase yourself to be a good parent. Maintaining parts of yourself, your interests, your independence, your voice is not selfish. It's stabilizing. You are allowed to be a whole person and a parent. If you are not the holder of the mental load, chances are you do maintain parts of yourself and you have the opportunities to continue your interests, your independence, or your voice. The gift is to give that to your partner, to take on responsibility so that your partner can have the option to maintain their parts of themselves. So let's take a look at connection. And connection, especially in partnerships, often can take the biggest hit because when one person is carrying more of the mental load, it's not just about being busy. It's about feeling alone in responsibility, unseen in their effort, disconnected from the team. And the other person can feel shut out. They could feel criticized. They could feel unsure how to step in effectively, right? If one of you has ever said, oh, just never mind, it'll be faster if I do it myself. That is shutting your partner out. That is a little silent criticism. You can't do it. You're not good enough. And then your partner's not sure how to step in. How do I take this over if my partner is going to attack me or criticize me for not doing it right or not doing it their way? So instead of, how are you? How are you doing? How was your day? It becomes, did you get this done? Did you do that thing? Did you remember? And over time, couples shift into co-managers instead of partners. And disconnection builds quietly in small moments. Not being asked how you're doing. Not being relieved without asking. Not feeling considered. So connection erodes in the absence of this shared responsibility and rebuilds through shared awareness. We talk about small things mattering. And this is another case where we see small things kind of in the negative mattering. But in the positive, they matter even more. And the goal isn't perfection, it's intentional adjustment. Here are a few meaningful shifts you could make. Make the invisible visible. So actually list out what's being held mentally. Scheduling, emotional tracking, planning ahead. Wherever it becomes visible, it becomes shared. Wherever it becomes visible, it becomes shared. This is actually one of the attractive things about those big electronic boards that you can buy, like the family calendar where everybody's got their tasks and you can click them off. It becomes visible and therefore it becomes shareable. Shift from helping to owning instead of, well, tell me how I can help. Tell me what to do. Shift to, I've got school logistics this month, or I'm going to take care of the birthday invitations and planning. I'll track appointments and communication. Because ownership includes noticing, acting, and following through. When we're building awareness, we want to make sure that we don't increase defensiveness. So remember, these conversations can be hard because when you are sharing that you have too much on your plate, it kind of implies your partner doesn't have enough. We don't want to do that. We want to instead be curious instead of blaming. We want to listen over solutioning. And we want to acknowledge over explanation. Okay, so curiosity, listening, and acknowledging, not blaming, fixing, or explaining. Okay. feeling understood matters more than the immediate change. Feeling understood matters more than the fix. Sometimes that goes a long way to fixing the problem, especially when it comes to resentment. Protect your identity on purpose. So for each of you, both partners need time off mentally. They need space that isn't functional. They need space that's fun or nurturing or just there. And they need permission to exist outside of their parenting roles. Even small things can help to restore a sense of self. This is not going to the grocery store by yourself or going to get a haircut by yourself. It's not that. That's standard care and feeding of a human being. This is more, what are the things that you can step away from and be and feel more like you? This is also where we prioritize connection. I talk a lot about small moments, micro bids, bids for connection, 10-minute check-ins, stress-reducing conversations, hugs, kisses, sitting on the couch. Doing this consistently matters more than the intensity. So, for example, date nights are great. I say this all the time. Date nights are great, and they can be hard logistically, especially if you have young children. There's babysitters, and maybe one can handle the babysitter and one can't, and maybe there's grandparents, which is great, but logistics can be a little tricky. So if logistics make it too hard, do the small things, do the check-ins, do the little things consistently. And then when you get the date nights, it's not like you went from 0 to 100, right, with the intensity. So remember that parenting reshapes everything: your roles, your identity, your connection. And for many families, the mental load is that quiet force that shapes all three of those things. And again, this isn't about blame. This is about awareness. Because once you see the invisible work, you can start to share it. And when responsibility feels shared, identity expands, resentment softens, connection shows up. And when responsibility feels shared, we feel like a team. We feel like we're in it together. Commitment, intimacy, trust. It's like logs on a fire. So the goal isn't get back to who you were before parenting. It's to become something more intentional together. Take care of yourselves and each other.